All right, guys, I'm going to show you something insane. I got in touch with this guy about 12 hours ago. He found, almost on accident, a treasure trove of autographed sports cards. Over 2,000 of them, almost all of them Hall of Famers. My estimates are hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cards. I said, hey man, let's sit down, let's hit record, let's hear the story behind this. How did you get these? Let's see what you've got. And then, he does want to sell a ton of these. So if you guys are interested in any of these cards, I'm going to leave his information on here. And you can actually reach out and potentially buy some before the auction houses get to them. So let's dive in. What's up, everyone? This is a very special episode. I ran into Wesley like 12 hours ago. This guy is sitting on thousands of autographed cards and doesn't know what to do with them. This is my specialty. I love helping collectors out. So I hit Wesley up. It was a post on Reddit, and I said, Wesley, let's just hit record and we'll see what you've got. And I'll give you some advice. And just to tease it for the audience, this is at least six figures worth of stuff. It's wild. Wesley, thanks for hopping on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Nick.
Yeah, you got it. So, all right, what are we sitting on in terms of numbers? You said it was thousands of autographed cards. What's the approximate number?
I'm gonna say close to now that I look across it, I'm still logging everything, but there's got to be 1,500 to 2,000 signatures here
Okay.
over baseball, basketball, and football.
Wow. All right. So we've got 2,000 raw autographed cards. That's the term we use in the hobby. Your cards are not slabbed, okay? They're part of a collection. Before we dive into like my advice and what you've got, how did you stumble into 2,000 autographed cards across football and basketball?
Well, we have a close friend of the family whose husband was an avid collector. He was in advertising, and he hooked up players with different companies. He did it that way, and he would go to all the local card shows. Well, he passed a while back, and she's downsizing and knows that me and my son Joaquin and my other two sons as well collect cards. And so she said, "Hey, do you want to come over and look?" And I said, "Yeah." And I didn't expect her to give me anything. I didn't even know that they were autos. I just thought they were loose cards. And she pulled out two binders of baseball, and each binder probably has 60 to 70 pages, and every slot is filled.
Wow. You don't see autograph collections like this very often. Most times people will have a shoebox or they'll have like one binder of stuff. I mean, we're talking, for the audience, 2,000 cards. And this isn't just, you might be thinking, oh, it's junk wax or whatever. It's not. It's like 87 Fleer. We have a lot of cool stuff. Before I have you show off the things, here's my first piece of advice to you. So Wesley, I think when anybody comes into a huge collection like this, or there's a massive change or something like that going on, my recommendation is to like step back and pause and just kind of think about what you're sitting on, which you did. You did the right thing. You went on the Reddit, the subreddit for sports cards, and you said, guys, like, what do I do? And you probably found some people on there, including me. That was smart. So here's my next piece of advice. Don't make a transaction with these cards for at least a few weeks. I think that's my first piece of advice. Just kind of sit on it and just meditate for a minute. What are your goals for this? Do you guys want to sell all of this within a month? Do you want to like save some of this? What do you want to do
I,
with these?
I think I want to save some of this, but I
Mhm.
do want to get rid of it. There's no time period. I'm not rushing anything. Over the next year, slowly start to get it slabbed and pieced out. And yeah, as far as taking a 2 weeks off and just kind of looking through this, I've been enjoying this. Is my whole youth. Like every card here is people that I remember and like I had as kids, but never autoed. And so like it's just really cool. I've been having so much fun. My wife has been missing me at night because I'll hit the basement and just be looking through binders and logging stuff. So it's awesome.
That's crazy. I know I would probably just do nothing but that for like weeks. If I came into this, I probably wouldn't leave the house for a while. It's crazy. So kudos to you if you are even leaving the house. I think that's amazing. All right, before I give you some tactical advice, let's see some stuff here. Can you show me some of the NBA stuff that you've got? Like,
All
I
right.
think you were talking about 1987.
Oh, 87. Okay, let's see here. So I'll put up some stuff. There's a Larry Bird, Julius Irving, Kareem, Kevin McHale. There's a Carl Malone. And then let me show you 88. Here's there's two Stocktons signed
Yeah, so
in
that's also 1987.
oh, 87.
That's crazy. So that Stockton card, you know, he didn't sign for like a decade, and what happened, those two cards went for 5 to 7 grand depending on condition, but he just did a signing recently. I think he charged like $500 to sign it, so those cards are at least $1,000 even if they were bent in half. But if the cards look good,
Oh,
if you think that they could be like an 8 or a 9 or a 10.
I think they
All
can.
right,
They're
let's hold
like
one up. Let's get a good look at it. Let's
here,
see.
I'll hold it really close.
Yeah, that's geez, that's really nice, and it's in
And the
ballpoint.
other one is just the other one is oh, the other one is a little off center from top to bottom.
Yep, that one's probably like a 6, but the previous one is an 8 plus. So what you can do, just I mean, you can do this for all these cards, right? You can assume a grade and say, all right, this Stockton is an 8, right? And you can go on eBay and you could say PSA 8 John Stockton 1987 signed, or 1988 signed, however it's categorized. And you can look at like the sold listings and just see what they sold for. And the
Yeah.
PSA 8, I imagine, still commands a premium. That's probably going to be more like a couple, $2,000 to $3,000. So when you said you've been spending, whatever your weeks enjoying this, I know because we spoke before this that you've been cataloging. That would be my first step. I would get a Google sheet open and I would catalog everything that you have. That is step one. If you don't know what you have, you can be taken advantage of, because you could just walk into a card shop with binders and you don't even know it's there. If they like send it off for you to get graded and give it back, it's like you don't even know what you got back because you never
Right.
cataloged it. So it's going to be brutally painful. But you're going to have to catalog, 2,000 line items just to make sure what you got. Then you mentioned you have a few kids, right? Make a couple
Yeah.
more columns. I would say one column would be, obviously you've got your name in the set, right? The next column would be like the quality. Do you think this is a 2 or an 8? Like, be rough about it, okay? And then maybe a quick like Hall of Fame, yes or no, because I think that would help as well. So
Okay.
that, like, if I personally came into this, that's the first step I would do. I'd catalog everything and make sure I knew what were the Hall of Fame players and what weren't. And then one step further, try to find out what these cards sell for in a slab or not in a slab, one or the other. But for every Hall of Famer, and this is a blanket statement, it's worth slabbing all of the Hall of Fame autograph cards, because you're going to do a bulk order to PSA where these are going to be $25 a piece, dual graded. So you get a card grade and an autograph grade as part of a bulk order. And most of the time, a Hall of Fame autographed card is going to be worth more than $25 plus the shipping. Um, One other piece of advice before you go to submit to PSA: join their collectors group. It's like $50 a year or something like that. That unlocks the ability to bulk order. And so you could do it nice and cheap. I mean, there is one other way you can do it. You can go to a regional or local card show, or you can go to the national, and you could hand this stuff to a third party that will grade this for you. But you have to understand there's more hands in the process then, right? You got to kind of trust them and their reputation, trust the shipping process from them to the grader and back to them and back to you. There's a little bit more. I mean, it's always a good exercise. I do them myself, but what do you think of that advice so far? How does that
Yeah,
feel?
I think that's a great advice. Like I said, I'm not in a rush, and I want to get everything slabbed. I was just kind of smiling when you were talking about Hall of Famers because like there's so much here
Oh yeah.
that are Hall of Famers, and like it's. I mean, I'm laughing. It's hilarious. Like
Right. All right.
it,
Now, before I get into the tactical advice about, so this is right now, I've just given you how to organize this and know what you're dealing with, okay? And I think no matter what, you should grade these before you sell them, unless you can get somebody to give you a pretty fair deal on a raw card, and you just don't want to deal with the grading and wait. For example, I have some buddies. I personally have the 1986 Fleer set autograph, the full set.
That's awesome.
I have a buddy that's working on the 1987 Fleer set, and he'd probably be happy to take some of these raw cards off your hands. And it might be worth it for you to just get some quick cash and not have to deal with the grading. And maybe you give him like a tiny deal or something like that, because it saves you the hassle. So you could do that. But for the most part, grade these first. So we talked about organizing and all that. Before I give you more advice on how to sell, let's see some of the football or some of the other stuff you've
Oh,
got there. I think you said you had Walter Payton. You had a
there's a
few of
page
his
right
cards.
there.
Oh man, look at that card
There's
too.
a Barry Sanders, and then
Excellent.
here's a Jerry Rice,
Wow. These are
and
in
then
great condition.
another Barry Sanders, and then here's a Troy Aikman rookie auto, and then Joe Montana. And this is just the pro set. I have almost a complete pro set, football autograph set.
What year?
89.
All right. So for the for the audience, he has the almost the entire 1989 NFL score set autographed. Okay. Um, what I would do with that, so ignore what I said earlier a couple of minutes ago about everything else. For this set, um, I would find out where the gaps are and I would fill those gaps, trade some of these cards. If you've got that full set, then your next step is you bid. All right, you go to Golden Auctions, you go to Jason at Heritage Auctions. I'll tag him on this video and make sure he sees it. And then you go to the different auction houses and you basically say like, I've got this full set. What are you going to do for me?
I actually almost have a full set of 1989 football Hall of Famer cards. So, like, here's a Johnny Unitas. What's we got here? Terry Bradshaw, Roger Staubach, Sid Luckman, another
Wow.
Sid Luckman, Fran Tarkenton. I mean,
Yeah. So anything that's a set, um, you want to, I don't know, hand that off to the highest bidder. So start, play, like go reach out to a couple auction houses and they might actually help you with the process. They may say, all right, for that set, let us handle it. We'll get it graded fast. They might even pay for the grading fees for you. They may give you a good deal on the hammer price because typically you'll pay like a 20%, commission or
sure.
something. Maybe it's 15% and they kind of feature it. But this is wild stuff. Any auction house would love to hear from you. So I think start having conversations with them
Okay.
and give
Yep.
somebody a fair shot that you like, so you run into somebody that you like. And I think that's what I would do with the sets. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do not break up those sets and sell Johnny Unitas to your buddy and this guy to your other friend.
Yeah.
Keep the sets intact. And if you can finish those sets, the payoff is huge. They'll be worth more money because you're sitting on a ton of great stuff here.
Cool.
um that's 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 some tactical stuff. All right, now how so that's how you sell a set, right? Now let's
Uh,
assume the 1987 cards, you've only got like half the set. That's not going to happen, right? There are Facebook groups dedicated to some of these cards. So there's a 1986 Fleer Facebook group that accepts 1987 as like a second cousin or something like that. You can join that group. And if you posted today, you could say, hey guys, I got this crazy collection. Here's the 1987s I want to unload. And you can do transactions with those guys. And it's actually pretty good. I mean, you're a new seller on there, but we vouch for each other. You could say, is this guy good? You use PayPal goods and services. So, if something happens, you never know. Somebody might also be in Chicago and you just meet them in person, or somebody where they are or whatever. So you could start hitting up groups like that to sell these sets like the hoops. There's an 89 hoops group, there's a 90 hoops group. There's just a vintage basketball card group. You could start posting this stuff and you'll get the attention and you can go that way. The last resort is eBay, and it's often the first thing people think of because it takes forever to list these things. You pay a crazy amount of fees and taxes. If you are whatever you're left over with that you want to go to eBay with, you could consign to like a Rick Probstein. You can mail them this stuff. they will, for a fee, list it on eBay for you. You don't have to deal with it. They just write you a check at the end, and you can kind of track everything. Um, Man, the other thing I would do, like the in-person stuff, you say you're doing this with your kids and having fun. Dude, find a local card show and get a table for $100 on a Sunday. Just sit there with your kids for 6 hours. People are going to be like, boring, boring, boring. Holy crap. When they come to your table, because they're not going to like, they're not prepared for this, like the amount of autograph stuff you have. And that's a great way to do some deals real quick in person and unload some stuff. So I just hit you with a lot of stuff. How do you
Yeah.
feel about all that?
Overwhelmed,
Yeah.
but I really appreciate your help, and I'm looking forward to us working together in the future with this.
Sure. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm happy to help you. I can hold your hand for a lot of this too. And we can
I
keep
would
the
appreciate
audience updated because these finds don't happen very often. It's incredible, you
it. It
know?
was cool. Like my son, like was taking pictures. Like the first day, I kind of got it together, and he's like sending pictures to his friends, and he's just like they're losing their minds about it, and like it made me excited again about sports and cards, and
Wow.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm super jacked. So
Yeah. I mean, just looking at those NBA cards and what you told me, you've probably got 10, 20 grand worth of autographed NBA stuff. I imagine those football sets, if you can finish them off, there's probably some no-name players that are extremely difficult. Um, but I can help you navigate that too. There are some, first find out if they're alive or not. The players,
yeah,
if they're not alive, you got no choice. You're gonna have to buy them. Try to find them on eBay or auction houses and network in these groups. But if they are alive, you could write them a note and say, "Hey guys, I found this whole set. I'm missing you and this guy and this guy." Write to them. You could find their address. We have videos on our channel on, how to get somebody's autograph, how to get an autograph through the mail, how to find them. There's lots of great websites like startiger.com, sports collectors net. You can just Google that and you'll find it. All of those sites have like players' addresses, and you can hit them up and finish some of these sets because those as a whole will be a lot more. Um, and I do think, you've cataloged, you've organized it, you've got your goal of potentially liquidating this fast. I do think the auction houses can help you here. But just be careful, like make sure you know what you're sitting on and know what it's worth. And you feel like you're getting a fair deal with the auction house and that they're going to advertise you in the auction appropriately, give you a good lot number, make sure you get some sort of promotion out of it, a post that's about your
yeah.
collection. For something like this, I imagine they would, at the very least, talk to you a little bit and maybe get some of that for a video. So I think that would be huge as well. So what questions do you have for me? Like you must have something like,
I do.
all right.
So I have. Is there a difference between pen and marker autograph?
That's funny, man. It's personal preference. So you're saying Sharpie versus ballpoint, right?
Right.
So back in the day, it was only ballpoint. So it was easy. They didn't have Sharpies until I don't even know, it was like 20 years ago or something like that, maybe like the late 70s, early 80s. So some people prefer the pen of the period. So if you've got a player that's alive now but played in the 60s and you got stuff that's signed in ballpoint and it's signed in Sharpie, a lot of people prefer the ballpoint because it means they probably signed it back then, right?
Back then.
But we're not talking a huge value difference, maybe 10, 20% or something like that. It's more about the quality of the signature, whether it's ballpoint or Sharpie. So I wouldn't stress about that too much. I know when we were talking, you were worried, you wish they were in ballpoint, you wish they were in marker. Don't worry about that so much because these were signed like at the time, like your whole collection was. And
Mhm.
that's quite valuable. So that shouldn't make a difference.
Okay. Does it matter if something is signed on the front or the back?
It does. I would say signing something on the back can reduce the value by about 50%, depending on who it is and depending on
I,
who the player is.
yeah, because there are some players it seems like that they just always sign on the back.
Sure.
Like
And they did it
Carl
for
Malone is one.
they do it for weird reasons. Maybe their card is really dark on the front and
Okay.
they just felt like that signature wouldn't pop. Maybe some of them it's just a habit, like Jeff Rulland from the 86 Fleer set signs on the back. But it does affect the value a bit.
Okay. That's good to know. God,
What else?
I wish,
What about the grading process or PSA or
yeah, like, I mean, I know a little bit about it from what I've studied, and I've been looking at 130points.com, which is a
mm,
great site for cards to value.
that
Um,
pulls, so 130point.com pulls eBay and auction houses, which is great.
yeah, I saw that. I noticed that. That's awesome. Um, I just like when it comes like some of these cards are old and like they were in binders and like I'm not expecting everything to be a 10, but I don't know like when I look at something like okay, that's a 6, that's an 8, like how how strict do you have to be about this like when you're
Oh,
gonna
right.
send something in?
You know, here's the deal with these. The reason I wanted you to separate the Hall of Famers out is there are probably some cards that it's not worth grading. So
Okay.
that's just the first thing. There's some players that probably aren't worth grading. Again, that grading fee is about $25. It's about $10 to ship, right? Your time. So let's call it 30, $40. If one of these cards isn't worth more than $30 slab, don't bother. Just leave it in the binder unless it's for the set. That's a different story because remember the set as a whole is worth more. Now
Right.
the condition is interesting. Obviously, if you've got a high condition John Stockton rookie card that's signed in the era, that is going to be a premium because people want a really nice card and a really nice auto. For a super rare autograph that almost nobody has, like Manute Bol or something like that, because he's deceased and he's been deceased for a while, and that's a card with a pop of like 3. You could bend it in half. It's probably going to be pretty similar value.
Wow.
Now there's a scale to this, right? Like, a 6 isn't quite what an 8 is, but I wouldn't obsess over that too much. I would just kind of send them in and let PSA do its thing. And that's the other thing. Use PSA for this.
Thank
Um,
you.
Sadly, they're like the evil empire, and we keep coming back to them, but we do for a reason. Their stuff sells for more. It's just a fact.
So
Yeah.
I have one more question. So I had
Yeah.
an
Hit me up,
advice.
man.
So I did check in with like a local card shop, and they have like a PSA JSA authenticator there.
Hmm.
I'm not going to name the shop. I didn't get a. I mean, it just we didn't really mesh well. It seemed like, but he said that like he's like just get them JSA authenticated. He's like don't even worry about getting the card graded. He's like just get the autos graded, and then he showed me, and it was like a little piece of paper that comes with the card, that little certificate, the JSA
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
certificate.
I'll explain that. So JSA is awesome. We had them on our podcast. We had the owners. They don't yet, but soon they will actually be slabbing cards. When they do, that will be amazing, but they don't right now. They slab
Okay.
comic books, I believe. So JSA is great, but you get one of two things with them. You get a sticker that's, you can look it up and say this is authentic, and you can put it on the card or on the item if it's a football, or you can put that sticker on a letter, which costs, I think it's $25 for the letter, or no, it's 35 for the letter and $25 or $15 for the sticker. That's good, but you're going to be sending like this stack of cards and they're just going to be stickering them all. The problem is the value's just not there. Don't do that for these cards. As much as I love my JSA guys, the value is in a PSA slab. Beckett is okay. I would say it's about 80% of the value, but these are all going to PSA. Now, the only reason you'd want to now let's PSA has been very strict lately about vintage autographs. So they may fail these just because they're in a bad mood or something like that. Now, if that happens, your next step is Beckett. You take them, you send them to Beckett because when they're slabbed in a piece of plastic, that makes them more valuable. Now, if Beckett fails them, what I would do, and again, this goes with your timeline, right? JSA
Yeah.
is going to be slabbing stuff, but they just don't yet. So that actually is a third option for you, probably in a few months. And
Okay.
if you want to hang on that long, you can do that and maybe be like a test run for them and have them do your whole set in a JSA slab. That might be kind of dope. But they're just not there yet, right? So I would at least in the meantime get your stuff PSA. Strike one if they check it out. Go to Beckett. Strike two. Don't make that. Don't make them think your stuff is fake though. Like this is just them being strict and putting their brand behind it. Then you go to
Okay.
JSA and you say, all right, like let's just sticker the ones that didn't pass. And maybe they maybe some of these were signed by secretaries or whatever, like that's possible. They all look good to me, especially the Stocktons. So that bodes really well. These are in my estimates, 95% of these are legit, and PSA will probably pass 2/3 of them. Beckett will probably pass the other 20%, and then the last little chunk will go to JSA. But you want to PSA these all day long.
Yeah. Okay.
What
That's
else,
awesome.
man? What else? I'm sure you got more questions.
I just, like I said, I don't know. For me, I don't know where to start even, and like who to start with, and like,
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna step 1, 2, 3, 4 this right now. I think that's how we're gonna close this down too. Um, because I want to make sure this is actionable and I want to make sure you don't get taken advantage of, because this is the stuff that pisses me off when somebody like you has a collection and you go to a card shop and they just burn you, right? And they give you advice like, yeah, get these JSA when that doesn't give you the most value. Like that's not fair to you. So here's my advice. All right. So step one is the cataloging. We covered that, right? We're going to
yeah,
catalog these bad boys, name, set, potential grade, give or take. You can look at the grading standards, name, set, potential grade, and then Hall of Fame or not. And then honestly, that last column is probably like worth it. No, worth slabbing question mark. Yes or no. And the way you get that is 130 pointer eBay and you just pull the values. This is going to suck. It's going to take weeks, but now you're armed. That organizational part of it, you are armed with an arsenal. You are not allowed to make a deal with or contact an auction house or a card shop or any collector, unless it's like a good friend of mine and you really want to hook them up with like the Manute Bowl from '87. But besides that, don't conduct any deals until you've got this catalog and you understand the value. Then step two, I will allow you to make contact with people. I would start high level, and you want to talk to key auction houses that will help you shepherd this process. They might
okay,
be able to get something graded a little cheaper and a little faster and advise you on the value of the set and that sort of thing. That is going to take 2/3 of your cards away from you, and you'll get a check. Now, it'll be a check minus 15 to 20%, right? But that is a big step, okay? Boom. That's like 2/3 of the load taken off. Okay, right away. Step three, take the leftovers that aren't quite worth going to the auction house or whatever, but you do want to sell them and not keep them. Hit up the eBay consigners. Rick Probstein's great. He was also on our podcast. Mail them the cards. I can make an introduction for you if you'd like, and they can put them up on eBay for you. Again, they'll cut you a check and you'll get whatever the percentage is. But again, you got to go back to that sheet to decide before you consign to somebody like Probstein Auctions. You need to decide, is it worth slabbing these or not first? Okay. And then at that point, that's your step three, right? You decide, okay, I want these slabbed. I'm going to either do this myself or I'm going to go to a show and ask somebody to do it for me. Pros and cons with each one. Okay. And then step four, sit back and just, I would probably like finish the sets if you want, like try to complete them, or just like have fun with it at like a card show and just see what you can unload, like the lesser cards. You don't have to worry about getting stolen and stuff like that. That I think is your playbook here.
yeah.
That's what I would advise doing. How does that feel?
It feels good. It was you answered one of my questions. Was like there are a lot of just regular guys here that are autographed. Like there's a 1985 Eric Show from the Padres. Like who's that guy?
Yeah, you never know though. Those are sneaky, right? So there are cards in '86 Fleer that you've never heard of, like Dan Roundfeld. That card's $5,000. Derek
Wow.
Smith. That card's $4,000. These guys could be a very tough autograph as part of a wider set. Again, this is part of that education, right? So you catalog and get yourself organized, but then you reach out and get educated, probably from an auction house, on like what do the sets look like, and if these, you know, Joe Schmo is part of a set and he's super rare, you're sitting on something that's more valuable than you think it is. So be
Mhm.
careful. Don't just go. Don't have a card shop tell you, "Oh, that card's nothing. I'll take that for $50." Don't
Right.
you dare do any of that right now. And
No, I won't.
honestly, if you're going to run deals, I want you to run them by me so I make sure you're not screwed. So, um, man, this is wild. It's not every day. Um, I mean, just so behind this guy, we're not going to show it because it shows his whole house and everything. He has a table with just a mountain of binders like you would find in a treasure hunt. I mean,
Yeah,
unless you
Nick,
want to spin it
Nick,
around quick, we'll show
I'll
the
sit there
audience.
quick,
All right.
okay? Just because I'll keep
I
it.
mean, look at this table. It's just bind. This isn't even everything. He's got like a dozen binders, chock full of like just autographed
And
awesomeness.
like
So
this is just what I pulled upstairs. Like downstairs is a whole nother table like this of
unbelievable.
autos. Plus, there's probably a few thousand like non-auto cards from the 70s, 80s, and 90s of like all stars, tons of rookie cards, in really nice condition too.
You know what we
So
can do is if you catalog this on a Google sheet, I'll try to drop this video very soon. But what I can do is in the description, eventually I'll link to that sheet if you want. You can make it a private sheet so nobody can edit it. And then people who watch this video can see what you have available. And you can have one more column that says gone. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Gone or
yeah.
available, gone or available. I think that might be handy. So, just make a Google sheet out of it and send me the address and I'll drop it in the notes.
I've
All
been
right. Yeah, go ahead.
I've been putting everything on my notes on my iMac, so I'll try to like transfer that over into Google
Oh yeah,
Sheets.
super easy. Just Google Sheets and then pop it in. It's just like a spreadsheet, cut and paste. And
Cool.
that way you can share it and it's an easy way for people to see your catalog, right? Now you can go back to Reddit when you're done with all the steps I told you and you can say this is what's left and they can look at it without you having 500 conversations and showing 500 cards every time. This is
Sure.
what you got. But again, you got some work ahead of you, man. But I wanted to, this episode was important for the audience for me. You don't find this stuff very often. This is like a modern day treasure hunt. This is personally why I'm in the hobby. Is you could find this is like a gold mine. You found 6 figures worth of cards, and it's wild. And now you got to organize it. And I thought like I had to let people hear the story. So Wesley, in the interim, after I allow you to do deals with people, after you go through your steps, how can someone who just watched this reach out to you for some of these cards that you found
I
if they're
have
interested in them?
I have a Gmail. It's Wesley78James at Gmail, all one word. Yeah. You,
Excellent. I'll drop it on the screen for everybody too. So Wesley, my goodness, I envy you and don't envy you at the same time.
there's
I'm
so
really
much work
excited.
there.
I'm really excited about like your next 3 months. It's gonna be wild, man. You just
Yeah.
found pirate treasure and you're gonna have some fun with it. So thanks for hopping on. Again, guys, if you're interested in any of this stuff, eventually I'll get his set in the description. For now, you got his Gmail, or leave a comment here on something that you're interested from the set, and maybe I'll get you in touch with him if you're interested again after he's done his homework. Um, thanks again, Wesley. I appreciate it, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Nick. Thanks for having me on. I just want to say, my kids, Joaquin, Luciano, Isidro, and Bear, they'll be watching this. So thanks a lot again.
You got it. All right. Take care, man.
We'll see you, bro.